Hello guys, Pastor Preston is my name. I'm so excited to come your way today. So today I want to talk to you on something nice. And I'm going to use a story, very familiar story if you're in Nigeria, to buttress it and then explain something very deeply. Okay, right. So there's this guys in Nigeria, they were working in an eatery. And then during work hours, they were dancing on duty. So while they were dancing on duty, the system got angry and fired them because that was not what they were paid to do. They were paid to be security boys and open the door for people. Rather, they were dancing on duty, right? So why that happened, okay, a pastor felt that was unfair, and then decided to send the boys abroad. Okay, that was generous of him to do that. And then, of course, he sent them abroad. And while he sent them abroad, he was paying their school fees. Along the line, he really could not afford some things again, expected them to work and help themselves. They started to blackmail this pastor online. It was so terrible that one time the pastor had to faint and all that, right? And then eventually, long story short, those boys were deported and then they are back to Nigeria. I pretty understand. Truth is, when the pastor was taking that decision, I did not see it as a right decision, but I could not say it. Listen, you see, sometimes you just want to be nice, okay? But nice is not righteous. Neither is nice expressed to be a wise thing. Okay, let me explain it carefully. The word nice is from a Greek word nesios, okay? And nesios means to be unaware, to be ignorant, okay? Right, someone who is naive. That's the root word, the root meaning of the word nice. Okay, so he actually started with a negative meaning before it began to evolve into some a better expression today, right? So being nice or pitying is not necessarily an expression of wisdom. That is not to say we should not be good people, but however, when you want to do a good thing, you need to apply wisdom so it doesn't backfire. Now, this is my take. If that young man was not disciplined, right, and was dancing during his job, if you even want to help him, you will need to take them for reformation of their mind and make some adjustment. That tells you that they already have a system, right, that was not processing rightly, a poor thinking faculty, or a mindset that was not rightly organized. Okay, so you needed to rehabilitate them, work on them first before you offer them that good service. Otherwise, it's going to come back on you. You see, it's going to become some problems to you. There's some people who you help and give money every month and all that, and then you have weakened their ability to become strong, and thus you've now allowed them to have that mindset of dependence, right? And then when it seems like you cannot respond to them anymore, they become angry because they've been looking up to you to help them. You see that? They've been looking up to you, all right, to help them. So they can't figure out things by themselves, that they could sort matters out and all that. So be careful how you want to jump on things that you have not properly analyzed, right? And then in trying to do good, you now become a bad person, right? Because you did not, elevate the mindset, the capacity to be able to fit in for what you're trying to do. A lot of people are very ungrateful. I'm telling you, gratitude is not just because someone said thank you. Gratitude is the ability to understand the sacrifice that you are making, right? And from a place of genuineness, they appreciate it. That's what gratitude really explain. And I can tell you this, and I've learned this practically, right? Okay, there was a young guy who joined our ministry a long time ago. He had been rejected from so many church and all that. Being a young boy who was passionate for God and loved God, I said, come in. I brought him in. I was giving him allowances. I did every stuff and all that. Can I tell you, after a few years, he left my ministry too, right? The problem was I was too zealous without proper wisdom, right, to manage the situation. And that's the truth. I was too zealous, right, without proper wisdom to manage the situation. Let me say this. Almighty God, in working with Gideon, rejected some people. Take note of that. He rejected people who were not found disciplined. He rejected people who were found, to be fearful, right? And that means God also checks out for you having the quality to do a job. God also checks out for those things. That's number one. Jesus Christ, in picking his disciples, if you're very, very sure, he rejected some people. There were 70 for which he picked 12. That's one. Number two, what about the rich young ruler? He rejected him. What about the guy who was saying, let me go bury my father and come back? He rejected him. What about the one who says, let me go bid farewell and come back? he rejected him. Take note, these people he rejected was not because he hated them, he didn't like them, but they lack a characteristic, they lack a capacity, right, to sustain themselves in the job that they were going to be doing with Jesus. So he had to reject them, not because he hated them, but because they lack the quality to do the job that they are asking for. Okay, that's very important. Let's look at Paul as well. We had a situation with Paul, right? One time Paul was doing ministry, and then of course Demas had forsaken him, so he now began to ask that someone be sent to him. It was John Mark. He said, send me John Mark. He said, because there was a clause, because he was profitable for ministry. He says, send me John Mark because he was profitable for ministry. Then he says, only Luke is with me. So apparently, when Demas left, Luke did not leave because Luke had capacity to stay. He said, because he's profitable for ministry. That means there were other people too that he could have asked for, but they will not be profitable for ministry. Listen, don't run your life with sentiment. Don't just be nice. Okay, listen to the voice of the Spirit when you try to respond to people. I remember one time someone was crying on the internet of how he helped his gate man with some money, expecting that the gate man was going to use it to set up a business, go to school and the rest of them, only for the gate man to carry that money to go and buy a luxury that even himself may not be able to afford it. Think about that. I also knew of another situation of a sister who was trying to help a lady who she thought did not have, to dress properly. And then he went to shop for her with all that she had, only for him to see the sister taking her own money to go and buy something that she herself could not afford, right? How do you explain all that situation? Okay, so you must not be run by emotions and feeling, right? You must check people carefully, right, before you respond to them or act for them. Jesus did not help everybody he saw, did not heal everybody he saw, neither did he even accept everybody he found. Okay, I remember one time where Judas says, oh yeah, let's sell this thing that they're putting on you and go and give to the poor. And then he said, the poor you always have with you, but Jesus always took care of the poor. But he says, in this case, this is done for my burial, right? And it has to be like that. We are not going to convert it for the poor. You need to develop wisdom in your life. You need to develop real strong wisdom so you can understand, right, on the things that you are venturing on, so you could do it properly. Otherwise, you get on some stuff and you regret it. Listen, right, there are some people you need to reject in your life. It's not wickedness. It just means because they lack capacity, to flow with you in what you're doing, or to understand you, to comprehend you, or to be useful to you. You have to reject them. Now, rejecting them does not mean you hate them. It just means that, right, they are not fit. You need to fire some people. Okay, it doesn't mean that you hate them. It just means that they will become a burden, right? And then they will cause you problem. They might not cause you to grow in your life, right? It's important that you understand that. So look at people closely and deal with those issues the way they are. Okay, someone that divorced like 4 times, and you are thinking you're the Superman who is not going to marry and then they will not be divorced, right? If they have not learned the lessons for which they had been divorcing, right, you will just be another one in the equation. A man who was beating his first wife, and then of course eventually the first and the second left, you now want to come in and say, well, I have a lot of wisdom to manage them. You might also become a victim of the same circumstance, right? Because you need to look at situation carefully, analyze them, and be sure that you can handle the issues before you manage them. I know that there are certain people who will be rejected somewhere who you have capacity to manage, because those people lack capacity to manage them. However, right, there are not all cases that you should also think you can do, because you need to know what the capacity you have, right, to the problem that you want to solve, if you have a capacity to manage it. You know that pastor, he's been helping other people, but this one became a problem for him, right? Because first, he did not deal with the issue. These boys were dancing on duty. It's not about sentiment. It's not about being nice or caring, right? Why would they be dancing on duty? So the people who fired them for dancing on duty did not do wrong. They hired them to do a job, and dancing was not part of the job they were hired to do. Okay, so if they were dancing on duty, they deserve to be fired. That's clear. Now, if you now think they did wrong and then you want to help them, you will inherit the challenge that they have, right, in your own system. If you saw how they insulted this pastor and said all manner of things against him, the man who took them from being security people, sent them abroad to school, right? And then they began to live extravagant lives and all that. Eventually, they were deported back to Nigeria. So look at things very closely before you draw conclusions Otherwise, you will regret those conclusions because you were thinking you were a superman, you can manage all kind of stuff. You cannot manage all kind of stuff, right? So I have not said don't be nice, right? I have not said don't be good to people. I have only just said listen to the voice of the Spirit, calculate the situations, understand who the people are, and then before you begin to do what you want to do, so your good deed will not turn out to be bad deeds eventually. I hope this message communicated something to you, right? Use it for good. God bless you, and thank you for listening.